to the first ever, the inaugural Ben Motorcycle Adventures podcast, your hub for everything off-road, dual sport, and adventure motorcycle related. My name is John. I'll be your host each and every week. And right out of the gate, I must confess that this is the first podcast I have ever done. So I'm going to ask for your forgiveness. I'll probably make a few mistakes along the way. But my commitment to you guys is to get better each and every week as I release new episodes, bring on unique and interesting guests, try to add some value, try to bring some content on here that you can take with you on your next ride or adventure, and ultimately have a little bit of fun. You know, podcasts should be fun for me. It should be something that's intriguing for you. So that's the plan. Now, why am I starting up a podcast? That's a great question, and I even asked myself that as I click record here for the first time. Truth be told, I bought this podcasting equipment about a year and a half or 2 years ago, and I had every intention of, recording some sort of motorcycle-related podcast. Ultimately, none of that ever came to fruition. It never went much further than a few sample recordings, some frustration, and some deleted files. But I'm here now. It feels like the right time, and I just want to talk to you guys. So why does it feel like the right time? Being a business owner, a company that conducts motorcycle tours and adventures here, obviously I have my eyes laser focused on the dual sport and adventure market. And from my perspective, take it for what it's worth, I'm probably a couple of years behind the curve, but I'm seeing what I would deem to be a lot of growth. And I think that a great example of that, or evidence of that, would be Honda's latest entry into the dual sport market, the CRF 450L. Now, it's not a groundbreaking or earth-shattering machine by any stretch of the imagination, but it is obviously a more aggressively styled and lighter weight offering than what they've had for, forever, right? Honda did or does have a flagship dual sport bike, if you will, the XR or XL 600 or 650L. A lot of races have been won on that bike. I'm sure a lot of dual sport and adventure miles have been and will forever be logged on that machine. But Honda served notice to the rest of the industry this year and said, hey, we're going to put our hat in the ring and we're going to, put something better in there. So again, that's just a little piece of evidence to me that this market is growing. KTM, they're bringing out their 790 Adventure model next year. Now, obviously, KTM has a nice, robust lineup of adventure bikes already, but I think this is an example of KTM listening to their consumers, bringing a smaller bike to the market, something that handles a little bit better, something that's a little bit smaller. And again, this will be the kind of the first iteration of that. We'll see where we go from here. Not too far behind is Yamaha with their 700, and perhaps I should correct myself. There is some lead time associated with that machine, but again, another new adventure bike coming into the market. BMW, they've been big players in the adventure motorcycle market for quite some time. They're revamping their models, and they're obviously no one to sleep on considering the bikes they already make and the street bikes and the cars. So that's something to look out for. And considering all of this, I would like to think that manufacturers like Kawasaki and Suzuki are going to get more engaged in the market, but it remains to be seen. And then I would also like to think that Yamaha, who doesn't necessarily have a dual sport that can compete with the likes of the KTMs, the Huskies, the Betas, and now the Hondas, will bring something new to market and turn, right in that space too, a 450 or 500 cc machine. So we'll see. Now, considering what I believe to be the current state of the market, I've also observed something else here over the past year or two, and that is a number of people who left the motorcycle space for whatever reason. They now have a renewed interest. They want to get out and adventure with us, or like the rest of us again. And maybe a lot of that has to do with age too. People who had ridden off-road or motocross in the past, they're coming back 10, 15 years later, and adventure dual sport bikes are more appealing. Another thing, a lot of new faces. You guys wouldn't believe the number of inquiries I get from people who've never ridden a motorcycle, who want to receive training so that they can go on an adventure. It's actually quite staggering. And why do you think that is? I can tell you that my opinion on the matter is that social media is its own curator for this industry in my mind. You cannot log into Instagram, scroll through your feed, search for some sort of motorcycle related hashtag without seeing someone who has ridden a motorcycle to an amazing place, a place that's probably not accessible by car or truck, a place that takes a couple days to get to on foot, and you just can't help yourself. That is something that a lot of us want to do, that human sense of adventure. We want to get out there and ride remote places on motorcycles and see beautiful things that we could otherwise probably not see. And that is the beauty of motorcycle adventure, dual sport motorcycles, off-road motorcycles. It doesn't matter. We're really lucky. We get to go out and ride through and, again, experience and see things that most people don't see. So, for those people who are coming back to the industry, back to the motorcycle space, they're in for a treat. I think they're going to have a lot of opportunities to do things that they'd never done on a motorcycle. And for those coming into the space for the first time, they're going to be spoiled, right? Amazing, collection of bikes to choose from right now. If you look at the off-road, dual sport, and adventure market, and all they have to do, well, after they buy one of these expensive machines, is all they really have to do is get out there and ride with us and adventure, and again explore new places. So for me, that's one of the reasons I decided to start the podcast, to try and help educate some of these people who are entering the space or coming back to the space, because they have a lot of questions. Granted, there's a lot of information out there, but it's tough to answer everybody's questions and address concerns or whatever the case may be, share experiences through blog posts. I've already worn out a few laptops this year with just a few blog posts that I've written. So I thought to myself, what better way to connect with these people than through the power of voice? You can disseminate a lot of information, in quite a big hurry here by podcasting. So that is one of the reasons that I'm here. Now, another reason for starting up a podcast for me personally, again, I'm a small business owner in the space. We conduct tours, off-road motorcycle tours, dual sport tours, motorcycle adventure tours. I would tell you predominantly in Oregon. If you ask me in 2019, I'll tell you predominantly on the West Coast. And after that, we're obviously targeting extreme growth. So who knows where we're going to go. And again, it's a great time to be in the space. But as a small business owner, and I'm sure this is the same with every industry, it's tough to get in front of the right people that can help you or give you advice or give you fresh ideas. So I think a podcast is a way for me to reach out to some of those people or provide some value, and maybe there's some sort of trade-off there. So I guess selfishly, maybe I'm sitting here talking behind the mic for that reason, but more so, I look at it like this. I know there are a lot of people in this space that are like me, small business owners, people with products or gear, hard parts, whatever the case may be, that also need a forum to where they can come and talk about, again, their products or whatever the case may be. So I thought, if I create a podcast and open my doors, we could probably do a good job of promoting things for people and share, again, a lot more information to the masses. So open invitation. If you've got a product, an event, a venue, something you've created, whatever the case may be, if you want to get a hold of me and talk about it on this podcast, I'd love to have you on. And from my perspective, I would do my best to promote it and share it with as many people as possible. So again, open invitation to you small business owners or any business owners in this space. And you know what, to the everyday guy like me who just loves to ride motorcycles, and if you can't ride motorcycles, you love to talk about motorcycles, guess what? I want to talk to you guys too. If you want to come on here and tell me about the new boots you got and how they're performing, you purchased a new set of tires and they work great in the mud, that's the type of stuff that I want to hear about. So again, open invitation. If anybody wants to come on here and talk about something motorcycle industry related, I'd be happy to hear you out and be happy to engage in conversation with you. And again, do my part, do my best to promote whatever you've got going, or again, we'll just sit here and rap about motorcycles. That's pretty good too. Now, I should probably back it up here for a second because I know we're going to pick up some listeners here that are new to this space, and I don't want to lose them right away, especially when I'm just talking about different kinds of motorcycles. So to clarify, when I'm talking about the bikes, I'm really talking about 3 classifications of motorcycles. That first classification would be your motocross and your off-road oriented bikes. When these bikes leave the dealership, they're really intended for what manufacturers call closed course use, meaning they're meant to be ridden on motocross tracks, private property, OHV areas, things like that. Under most circumstances, these bikes are not street legal, though you can jump through some hoops and probably get a license plate for some of them. But again, closed course use, closed course competition, off-road and motocross bikes. The second classification of bikes that I'm going to talk about a lot are the dual sports, and I think the name of these is kind of a dead giveaway. These bikes are really dual purpose. They are legally allowed to ride on both the highway and off-road. You may or may not need a motorcycle endorsement or license to ride these on the highway with the cars. You'll just have to investigate that on a state-by-state basis. In Oregon, you are required to have a motorcycle endorsement. You've got to do some hands-on training, some online classroom stuff, and ultimately take a multiple choice test at the DMV. But anyway, motorcycle endorsement, motorcycle license may or may not be required. But the dual sport machines are really nice, super versatile. This is something you can ride out of your driveway, hit some trails, hit some roads, stop off at the store, whatever you want to do. They are much more versatile than your motocross or off-road bikes because legally you can ride them on the roads and you can just take them places that those off-road bikes won't go. There's some really high-end dual sports in the market now. We'll spend plenty of time talking about those, but these bikes, like a KTM 500 for instance, are barely street legal. They're very trail and off-road worthy. So these are some of our favorite bikes because they do so many things well. The last classification of bike that I'll spend much time talking about are the adventure motorcycles. These bikes aren't too different than a dual sport considering the fact that they're legal on and off road. But one of the main differentiators is really these adventure bikes are usually quite a bit heavier, quite a bit more stout. Reason being they're ultimately outfitted to handle longer rides, bigger adventures, carry lots of luggage or cargo, whatever you will. And under most circumstances, they have a lot more power. They're more comfortable on the highway. They're not a street bike by any stretch of the imagination. But then they do really well off-road. Now, they're not necessarily intended to be ridden on gnarly trails, and that is not what I would do with my adventure motorcycle. Not recommended, but people do it. and it blows my mind the way they ride some of these bikes in the tight stuff. But again, 3 classifications of bikes we're going to talk about: your off-road and your motocross bikes, your dual sports, and your adventure motorcycles. And again, I just wanted to clear that up. I know we're going to have some people again who are new to the space, and I don't want them to be scratching their head going, what in the heck is this guy talking about? So just wanted to shore that up for you guys. All right, guys, it's about time for me to get out of here with this first episode, which was really intended to be an introduction and an outline for future podcasts. I do want to reiterate one thing from earlier. Again, if you have a business in this industry, a small business, a product, an event, a venue, or something you want to promote, please get a hold of me, benmotorcycleadventures@gmail.com, and we'll definitely get you on the podcast. Or if you just want to come on here and talk about motorcycles, talk about adventure, we've got the Supercross series coming up. There's plenty going on there. I'd be happy to have you on. I'd be happy to have you as a guest. So again, just wanted to reiterate those things. What's coming up? Expect our next episode to cover planning motorcycle adventures and then bike prep for motorcycle adventures after that. And that's it. We're going to call it quits here on our first episode. I want to thank you guys for listening. Appreciate the support. We'll see you next week.